I want attacking, purposeful football all the time. Now we're going to have backs against the wall and we're going to fight, and we're going to fight hard. You've got to show me all the guts and all the determination you've got in your body. You've got to inspire me.
A marvellous kick. That's as good as you'll ever see. And puts player back in front.
I don't know about you guys, but if I see one bloke walking out of here, give the pat on the back from people out there for a good effort, I'll spew up.
From inside the centre square, Boyd kicked the goal. Boyd kicked the goal from inside the centre.
Hey Pack, welcome to Danny Boyd, a podcast about the most fantastic football club in the known multiverse. That is the Footscray Football Club. Proprietary Limited, they trade as Western Bulldogs. I'm Danny McGinlay. Tom Boyd is literally 20 centimetres from me, Boydie. We're into the proper silly season, you would call it.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a game on the weekend. I don't really want to talk about it.
Been a few silly moments this week, Danny.
Oh, yes. But, congrats Brisbane, sucked in Geelong. Hey, AFLW, did you see?
Yes, they smashed
Kelly Blackburn.
Yeah, with
the
Jack Ginnivan celebrations.
Oh, mate.
I don't know if I like that, but anyway, we'll move on.
Your mate, Izzy Pritchard, absolutely amazing.
This is actually the silly season is one way to say it. I think this is the season where, a million conversations go nowhere. And we end up hearing on trade radio, thank God that's a thing, that we listen to 8 hours of coverage of the same deals, of which none can happen until trade period starts, and then none of them happen until trade period ends.
Yeah. So, I mean, your trade radio is your KFC, your Hungry Jacks here. We're trying
days of our lives.
We're trying to give you the kale soup here. Yeah. We're trying to give you an intelligent, Bulldogs only discussion with the list manager, Michael Regan. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Is this actually your title? I've read it was something different. Isn't it some fancy...
I'm not a big one for titles. I believe it's player acquisition and strategy manager.
That's it. I'm an ambassador for WorkSafe, and they have all of those same titles. It's like 6 words that they combine together, and no one can ever remember what they are.
The acronym's not great. PASM.
List manager.
PASM. I haven't even thought of that.
Well, I think it's like, if the coach is the president, the list manager is part of the deep state, I would say, is part of the back office of the club that actually keeps this thing on track.
I thought you were using a political metaphor, like he was going to be, the minister of trade.
No. More like the decisions for our club and what actually manifests on the field in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years is actually made by you, not by the coach at the moment in some way, shape or form. And
no pressure.
We probably should start with your background and where you came from rather than diving straight into the list management conversations that many of the fans are obviously interested in. Where did you sort of come from? Where did you grow up? Where did you start your career in talent management or list management over the last 10 or 15 years?
Yeah, so I grew up in Melbourne, out in Mulgrave, out in the east, Tom Boyd country as it's called.
No, Sam Mitchell country. No, it doesn't sound as good, does it?
No. I mean, he would claim it.
So would I.
He's already having a coffee with that land in a very public place.
But studied exercise and sports science and was a teacher for a little while. Come from teaching stock. Both my parents are teachers and my brother's a trained teacher too. But from there, actually started working in sports technology. So with Catapult Sports, I was one of their startup employees.
Yep. The GPS.
GPS.
The GPS ones that the boys wear every game.
You chuck them in the back of the Guernsey?
I was actually part of the creation, invention, evolution of the company. So did do a little bit of the GPSs in the back of the jumpers and may have found some in urinals from players at various stages and they didn't want to wear them. Again, a Tom Boyd special move from what I hear.
Definitely not.
But then spent a bit of time over in America with Catapult, and that was right at that sports analytics revolution time. And so we were trying to get in with these clubs over in America, be that the Dallas Cowboys and New York Knicks.
Are we talking like Moneyball period?
It was just before the movie came out,
Yeah.
but it was as all the clubs had caught on to what Moneyball was, and they were arming themselves in that area. But
please use many pop culture references so us civilians understand.
No worries. Let me just pick up those names that I dropped too around the Dallas Cowboys and New York Knicks. But
that's pretty cool. Hang on, so you were actually working with those franchises?
Yeah. So Australia invented the GPS tech, and what they wanted was someone to go over there and shape the product, because you try and sell something in Australia, you sell based on scientific validity, reliability, rigidity, PhD research, all that. You try and sell something in America, you go in and you basically say, hey, we can solve all your problems and we're the greatest thing in the world.
You're like the sham wow guy.
Yeah, you did have to be. So I had to explore and discover a personality when I moved over there. But so yeah, when we moved over there as part of Catapult, there was this product evolution that had to take place. So as part of that, they wanted me to embed with these teams. So you go into these teams and you'd say, hey, we can track athletes. And they go, why would we do that? So I ended up spending a couple of weeks with a lot of these teams as their sports scientist. And then a couple of them, we kept doing it and analysing the data for them remotely, because I had no idea what to do with it. They didn't know why you'd want to protect your athletes. They just churn them and burn them. Mm-hmm. But coming back to how did I end up here? As part of that, they were doing this evolution of sports tech and analytics. So pretty quickly, their analytics people,
yes,
came along and said, hey, we want to put this into our data warehouses, our data systems. We want to start testing this, lining it up with other data.
So hang on, they had data already, but they didn't think of putting GPS on the players to get better data.
No.
So they were doing stats, they were doing, obviously, contracts, all of that sort of detail, but not how much distance is your player covering, how many times they change direction, any of that stuff.
Did not care about preserving or prolonging athlete careers.
Gym stuff? They would have had gym data?
Yeah, they had all
pretty
the
strong in that.
Force data. And
yeah.
Lift heavier things was the motto.
Force data being like compression plates of sorts that you basically measure how much pressure you put through the floor when you're lifting a squat or whatever else they were doing at the time.
Yeah, they used that a little bit around preserving the athletes, but it was because there's some stuff you can do with that. There are others far more qualified than me these days to talk about that, but around how quickly your body reacts and things like that on a counter movement jump. But so they just basically said, hey, you're generating data, put it into our data, and that got me thinking, well, hang on, over in Australia, basically GPS is used for one thing. What else could it be used for? And it was actually the Dallas Cowboys who said, we want to put it in with our scouts. Right. And pressed us to go to a couple of unis that they knew. So all of a sudden that twigged in my brain. Came back here. I had a contact at Port Adelaide through Darren Burgess, who was part of, I probably owe my whole career to Darren. He looked after me.
He's just got signed at
Juventus.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So he's kind of the guru. He'd hate me saying that.
He's also isn't he the 100 man? Wasn't that his thing?
I actually had that at my local footy club in the grade amateurs reserves way back in the day.
What's hundreds?
He did it in Dubai. We did it at Wattle Park.
Wattle Park. I played basketball there, actually. Funny story.
What is hundreds?
100 is basically you do 100 hundreds in a row, but you do them in 10 100 blocks and you get a minute.
Well, it depends how fit you are.
So 100-meter sprints. Yeah. We're talking. Okay.
But you get a minute, or 45 seconds. So you do the 100 as quick as you can, then however much of the 45 seconds you got left, that's your rest.
Yep. And you do it in blocks typically, right? There's usually some.
No, we just did it straight until...
the Wattle Park guys did it the tough way.
We're the real ones.
Yeah. But it was a big thing, I remember at the time, because if I'm not mistaken, at Port Adelaide, it was these are the fittest guys in the world. Mm-hmm. And then didn't we have a soft tissue run shortly thereafter it or something?
No. They stay pretty robust. They had a really good record for a long time. But... part of that was Burjo especially had been at the Socceroos and Liverpool and seen that data evolution as well. So he wanted to drive this data mentality, and the GPS started as a scouting tool. What we're doing it for fitness and strength and conditioning, but they were the first to latch on and say, hey, we could use this data on 17, 18-year-olds to look at loads, but also project out statistically who can play certain roles for Port Adelaide.
So when you're saying the Dallas Cowboys scouts were using it on university, would they just go to university and put a GPS on everyone, or is it specific? Because surely a player's going to know he's being scouted if some guy comes up to you and just suddenly clips a little GPS thing on their back.
It started like that, yeah.
All right.
They had friendly unis or people that alumni of their staff who were at other unis now, and they're like, hey, you should start tracking guys.
Yeah, it was also in the talent pathways down here in Victoria. They didn't have the budget to put a GPS on everyone. There was 5 or 6 running around, right, every game, and that was it.
And that would happen to you. So you would have got the...
Yeah, they did it to me a few times, but to be honest,
it's got to be a good feeling.
They usually to be honest, put it on guys who are like fringe draft picks, not the guys who are like locked to go high. They were they wanted to know more about the guys who maybe they weren't sure about.
Okay.
And at that time they would have had to share that data with everyone, right?
Yep. The AFL managed it.
Yeah,
and they still do. So we still get GPS on all the Pathways kids, but so building out statistical models. Port were right at the sort of forefront of that data revolution in Australia. They don't really publicise it very much, but Jason Cripps, Chris Davies, Darren Burgess sort of drove it as, hey, we need to get an advantage here. So they did, and we did it on the Pathways kids, had a little bit of success around looking at some players who fit the way Port Adelaide wanted to run at a bit of a deeper level.
What was the way they wanted them to run at that time?
Look, it's all pretty standard now, but high-speed running. But it was more specifically saying, hey, this kid, his GPS looks more like Jasper Pittard than Sam Gray.
Yeah.
So we could give a better picture of, and again, going to blokes who are a bit more fringy than locks, a bit more of a picture of, hey, this is actually what you're getting, rather than we think he can run or a one-off 20-metre sprint. What does that tell you versus 10 games of a player's actual on-field output?
Right. Yeah.
So one of the many tools available, would you say? Like, as in, like when you're assessing a player, it's one of the many things that you look at.
As much as it sort of gave me my opportunity in sport, as we went further and further, we realised it meant less and less. And that's probably one of the big things with data, that I think there's this misconception that if you use data, you're picking off a spreadsheet. And as a person who has my background in data and owes my current job to data, if you're doing that, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
The data is, if your room has 5 chairs in it to make a decision, data's one of them. And sometimes it's a louder voice, but most of the time it's not a loud voice.
Yep.
It's just there as a support. Like, great people in data across any industry describe it as a decision support mechanism. You can be data-driven, data-led, or data-informed. We're not at a point as a sport where we can be data-led. We can be data-informed, and it can challenge what we think and challenge what we see, but it shouldn't be making the decision for us.
When was this discovered, that data? Because I've seen Moneyball. Suddenly, data was the most important thing. Is there a sequel to Moneyball coming where they realise it's all, it should just be a support decision maker?
Yeah, it's happening now.
Oh,
in
right.
Baseball. So baseball is one of my favourite sports.
Yeah, it's great.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
What are you saying,
the
Tom?
whole movie of Moneyball straight without missing a single line.
Well, actually, one year I got dragged up to present at the Port Adelaide Member Forum, and I put up a photo of Brad Pitt and the fat guy from Moneyball.
Jonah Hill.
Yeah, and I said, which one am I? With Matty Nix, who was with us at the time. So I'm claiming Brad Pitt and Nixie was the fat guy. So I shouldn't have said that, should I? Less physically fit guy.
He's been a bit of a bad dude to his wife, so call him the fat guy.
Cool.
Yep.
Coming back to your question, lots of things in sport exist on pendulums, and we sort of correct and overcorrect, and we're probably seeing a bit of that with the draft intervention, where we're probably overcorrecting and realising, hey, we've done too much to compromise the draft. We need to peel that back a bit.
Don't say that. Not at this club.
Father son. I'm talking more we've just had another random pick inserted in the last 24 hours and 4 extra list spots for another team. So
West Coast.
And Tasmania got 4 extra rookie spots the next 2 years, right?
$4 million in a signing bonus. We're just
or maybe they're just thinking, geez, the weather's really not that good down there. We're going to have to convince these boys that they have to live in Tasmania.
You get some free salmon.
But I do think that on that data front, baseball, so what happens is everyone latches onto an idea, everyone does it, everyone optimizes, that's the buzzword, everyone optimizes for that idea, and then once you've optimized for that, there's something else you've got to optimize for, and that might be to swing back to something that used to be in vogue. But,
vibe? Is it just vibe?
It's a little bit of Marbo Constitution, it's the vibe, but...
Do you get that reference, Boydie?
No.
Yes,
the
so
castle,
young.
You're too young.
Yeah, too young.
So I think baseball's swinging back. I think for us, the advantage is if you look at the concept and how other sports have gone about things, you can avoid that overcorrection cycle and work out, hey, what's the sensible application of this? And that's probably what we're trying to achieve with data is we don't want to go too far with it, but we also don't want to ignore it. Mm-hmm. And we want to leverage best techniques, best practices, best people to make the best use of it.
Yeah. It is an interesting world, though, because 2 observations. One, some of the American sports are very refined in the positions that they play and the activities that they have to repeat. Like pitching is a good example. Very different to a midfielder in AFL who's expected to run, tackle, chase, kick, mark, etc., etc. Obviously, we've got one of the best in the comp, or the best in the comp, we should say, here. So there's sort of the difference, I suppose, in how binary the actions are. So maybe not as applicable, a lot more variables, I would say, watching AFL football. And on the other side of the coin, what I see typically in the corporate sector is there's not as much of that pendulum swinging, right? They're much more rigid in their processes and they're sort of optimizing small little bits and pieces. But I often say to people when I'm working with businesses, in sport, it's like 45 players and 150 support staff, right? And what that means is that there's like a hyper fixation on trying to get the best out of the people that you have in the room. And so then you overcorrect because you're just trying to find that next edge. Is that, would that you say that that's an accurate description of what sort of happens in sport? Because we've got such a focus on getting the best out of our athletes in such a short period of time?
Yeah, it's a really smart observation. So please just jump in if I'm boring anyone to death here.
We're going to ask you all of the fan questions in a second.
Yeah, Patreons have sent a whole list through, and I'm not bored. I find this fascinating. You might need to dumb it down a shade for a civilian.
We're all good. So the first thing that I'd say is you've got to use the data that's available to you to its sensible limits, and not try.
Give us an example of it.
Try and squeeze more out of it than what it can actually do. So in baseball, they have technology, because the sport is really static. They can actually tell you how fast the ball's spinning when a pitcher throws it, right? Yeah. So they've got that level of granularity. They know where everyone is on the field at all times. They know where the ball is. They know how hard the bat swings. They know all the outcomes. NFL's the same now. They track the ball. They track the players. They track everything. We, as a footy club, we only get our GPS data. We don't get the position of the other team.
Oh.
No. So we don't get the position of the ball. So for us to try and make assertions around whether where Rory Lobb shifts 60 metres from the ball and it causes Zach Merritt to try and transfer play, which leads to a turnover, we get no insight on that. So for us, all of our use of data, we can't try and sprint before we're crawling, and our sport's still crawling in terms of data and the underpinning data. So, yeah, we're not like a business environment or basketball, soccer, NFL, baseball, where they have really complete data to go hard around analysing detailed concepts. Mm-hmm. We just need to analyse the concepts that are possible to be analysed as well as we can and feed that into the conversation. Our data hasn't caught our coaches. In those other sports, the data caught and passed the coaches, and then the coaches had to train up to become better with the data.
Yeah, wow.
Our data's here now to be used really sensibly and give us a chance to test some things at a scale that a human can't. So instead of me having to watch every player in the AFL every week, or our team having to watch every player of every team in the AFL and in the VFL every week, is there a level of intelligence it can give us at that scale that helps to flag us to then go and do the detailed work? Yes, and that's where it helps.
Yeah. So sorry. There's a feels like there's been a big shift over the last 15 or 20 years in this space, and in general in list management, right? Like, gone are the days of like the how would you call it? Like I know footballers kind of, and so I'm the list manager. I could just see a good footballer when I look at them.
Yeah.
But equally, from what you just said around the coaches still being ahead of where the technology is, they obviously still have some intuitive ability to understand how not only a player performs, but also where they fit maybe in the puzzle of things. So where does that sit, given your background, in terms of your philosophy on list management as a whole? And sort of, do you have a clear picture in your mind of what you're trying to achieve at any one stage in the year?
So the first thing I'd say to that is that our list management philosophy is a group. So we got Luke Williams and Jamie Downs and Dan Fisher, who's our AFLW list manager, who helps us out a little bit, as well as a network of part-timers around the country. We use eyes, ears and data. So like I said before, the data hasn't got to a level where we can rely on it solely. And as much as the data's catching the coaches, it's also catching the recruiters.
Now, I just want to ask you quickly on that. You say we, the Bulldogs, don't have that. Do any club do? Like, one of the rich, do the rich people at Hawthorn or Collingwood, do they have data.
No.
This is across the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
great.
it's-
Phew.
No.
It's just always,
Well, maybe
always got the...
maybe it'd be good if they had it. Might be leading them astray, is what I've been hearing. You know?
Can you talk to your people at Catapult and like give them misleading technology
Yeah.
so they become
Inaccurate.
rubbish?
Well, Stevie J used to put his GPS on his dog. For
Yeah,
a
yeah,
reason.
that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, that was always the buddy story too in the off season. He'd put it on his dog and throw the ball a few times.
Yeah. So, and the Justin Kajitsky story where he
Yes.
gave it to Joey Montana.
That's the best one.
last
Brilliant.
night. Yeah. Players are smarter than us.
I don't know about that.
Well, they're more cunning than us.
Cunning,
Let's go
yes,
with that.
definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, so any decision you make is best made by taking in all the available information to you. So that's eyes, ears, and data. So the data's there, but the eye of the recruiter, and there's still value in that. No, he feels like a footballer.
Yeah, yeah.
He moves through traffic like a footballer. That's still real, and we don't devalue that. But what we want our group to do is not just see that once, bring some evidence. So what can you do to bring some evidence to that conversation? Because the greatest use of data in list and recruiting is catastrophe avoidance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like to be able to say, hey, here are the red flags that you're ignoring if you do this.
Yeah.
Here is the implications based on history of trading your first pick into 2 picks later in the draft. Yep, you're probably more likely to find you're probably increasing your chances of finding role players, but you're sacrificing a little bit of elite upside by doing that. So because we have a good footprint of data now and we're really organised on the things that we have data available to us, we can test those questions again at a scale. Everyone likes to sit there and go, oh, we picked Joel Frazier at pick 30 and pick 40 something.
And he's amazing.
And he is unbelievable. Well done, Don Malacey.
Yeah.
Like that is an unbelievable pick. But it's also a 1 in 50 shot.
Yeah.
Like
or more.
that's the data.
Right. Is
to
that it?
turn
1 in
into a player of Joel's quality at that pick is like a 1 in 35 to 50 shot. Now,
Was that data or vibe that got us, Dr.
you'd
Crane?
have to ask Dom.
Yeah.
So, but the reason is that I'm still saying 1 in 35 to 1 in 50 because we actually still don't know how good Joel's going to be. We already know that he's very good, and at best he's a 1 in 35
and he's 22
that we've hit on.
or whatever.
No,
21? 20.
Yeah.
20.
Hasn't even finished growing. This is fantastic.
So,
He'll be 6'6" before we know it.
but the danger with selecting a Joel is then you go, hey, we'll pick another Joel next year.
Yeah.
You might.
Recency bias, right?
Yeah, and confirmation bias. Like you might, but the law of averages says you won't.
Yeah.
And that's where we have to make decisions and be informed that if we're going to try and pick another Joel, it's not a reliable way to build a list, and we need to look at some other options to backfill.
How do you deal with my mind, as soon as you said, hey, let's say a scout or someone on the periphery goes, this guy is worthwhile. I see that he's going to be good. And I think back to that Moneyball scene, if you recall, when Brad Pitt first throws the baby out with the bathwater, because all of the guys are coming in there and batting for their, this is my guy that I've found. And this is a guy that I would get. How do you deal with that, in particular with context to the coach, right? Because there's been many stories of both our club and every other club over the last 15 years of essentially list management and the current coach having vast disagreements in terms of priorities and timing and so on and so forth, not just for Bevo, but also for the broader group. How do you deal with someone getting attached to, a player that they feel like is the answer and dealing with that difficult conversation?
Yeah, is it like a farmer naming a calf that's eventually going to be slaughtered? Should you not name the players?
I actually did work in that industry during COVID when we were shut down, so that hits close to home. So you're probably picking up the best decisions in anything in life, and whether this is list management, catapult, teaching. I'm a parent as well as a parent. Getting deep there.
Which child did you choose?
No comment. Depends on the day.
My wife is the answer to that question.
Yeah.
Your wife? Okay, sorry, play on.
So the best decisions are made by bringing in all the information available to you and then factoring it all in and making a decision for that moment. So our role in list management is generally to be the long-term voice in the short-term world, which can be a challenge.
Yes.
Let's not beat around the bush. It can be a challenge. But there's always ways, especially if you're aware of where there are opportunities that the rest of the industry probably look at a little bit differently. to be able to meet both masters. Now, the greatest challenge in list management, and where we're really lucky, is for someone like me, Sam Power's done my job for 8 to 10 years, and Amit did it prior to him.
Yes.
You can do everything right as a club, and the player still doesn't pick you. And that's not a reflection on the club. That's a reflection on that player and their circumstances at that time.
They're free agent, like these are trade and free agent, though, right? Not draft. Draft is a
Draft's different.
Yeah.
But the hard part as a fan, and I'm a footy fan too, right? I grew up massive Collingwood fan, like in the crowd every week at Vic Park.
Yeah, we won't hold that.
Do you even
against
know
you.
where Vic Park is?
Yeah, played there, kicked 7 there one day, mate. So.
Okay. Don't know the castle, but know Vic Park. Yeah, I'm a footy fan too, and I'm a footy person, so I still appreciate that that feel and collaboration and the requirements, and what fans feel too. So when a player doesn't pick you, the fan goes, "We can't land a player. We can't land a player.
It's this person's fault."
Yeah, but there's 16 other clubs who didn't land the player either, and they're all feeling the same thing. So, yeah, it is. You've got to try and stay level and long term, and the fact that if you miss out on one player next year, you might get another one, and that might take you 3 years.
Yeah.
But eventually you'll land one. What you've got to control is what you can control, which is, are you bringing evidence to the discussion? Coming back to the discussion with the coach, and broader parts of the football department will have players that they love, and that's good. That's what you want, because they see things we don't. So you try and make sure that you're bringing in those players, as well as allowing yourself enough flexibility to look at what the long term is as well.
What would you say is the biggest influence for players joining clubs, money or the environment that they're joining?
You're not going to like this answer because it depends.
No, I would have predicted that was it.
Yeah.
Surely different players are motivated by different things. And
Yeah, for sure.
What you've got to find is a hook to get in the conversation. And then what I've learnt coming here, and we had a lot of success bringing players in at Port too, is that the environment and the facilities and things like that have been a really big thing. The part that's evolving is the role of your playing group and the level of support our players have shown through this period, my first period with the Bulldogs.
When did you join?
March.
Oh, right. Welcome.
Yeah.
So to get on the phone, to have conversations with prospects, those types of things.
Yeah, I got to hold them back at times. So
But it's become a new thing, hasn't it? Like even as recent as this week, like people like on Instagram messaging people or commenting that they should be coming down to Geelong this week, not to name anyone in particular.
And our group, it's in the media, so Connor Butterick's a player we're interested in. Riley West texted me straight away and said he terrorised me last year down at Ballarat. He's great. Get him in. So,
All right.
I think he's happy he wouldn't have to deal with him again. But,
That's famously we used to say that the reason the Bulldogs got Rory Lobb was to stop Rory Lobb kicking 5 goals on us every time we played Freo.
Yeah, and it was like it was always the joke was we weren't sure whether he played good any other games, but he played good against us. You know?
So, the industry's evolving. Free agency's finding its level, and it is more challenging for clubs who aren't contending and don't have 80,000 every week at the MCG. Yeah. So you got to find different hooks. The industry's evolving. It used to be draft and develop. Now it's turning into draft and develop, still absolutely there, and the footy club are expanding what we do on that development side, but it's turning into acquire and retain as well. And that's where your players, your coaches, your environment, partners, families, the network that the club can offer. And this footy club is something that the fans should be really proud of, because the network and what we have throughout the West and what our players are able to access should they desire, it's second to none. And the power of our football club's a little bit undersold. And there's a value that the footy club has called humble excellence. And the excellence part is something that we really, really have. And the humility is probably something that we need to keep and retain, because it is a core of what the West stands for.
Get rid of it. Get rid of it.
We never get rid of it, mate.
There was an article this year where we're number 2 in the AFL net for assets. And for players, and for players who are...
you know where we're sitting, right?
As in the new studio and the Tom Boyd recording studio, he likes to call it.
But for some players that matters. For others it doesn't.
Yeah.
For others it's more about, hey, how's my partner going to get treated? And again, I'd say we're in the best few in the league for how we treat our families and our partners. You know, the club sets aside things that it could be selling to treat our families really well.
Right.
And that sort of stuff is mattering more and more. So
is
we
there
need to keep
anything
exploring
fans
that.
do for that? Like, I'd like to think our fans are quite nice, but probably every club has nice fans and dickhead fans.
Don't read the forums.
Oh, yeah, I know it. Well, no, online's totally different. But
The vocal minority. But it does matter. And the thing with our fans is that there's a connection and a care without obligation. So, and that's something that they take people to heart in a way that's a bit unique. So whether that's Adam Treloar or Tom himself, he can probably speak to it better than me. But it is part of what we talk to these players about is, hey, you come here and you might feel like you're walking into a footy club late compared with a Bont or an Ed Richards or a Sam Darcy or an Aaron Norton. But this is a footy club that has a demonstrated history of its fans taking you into their fabric and really caring about you. And Ads is probably the best example, right? He came to us late in his career. He had his ups and downs with his body, but the fans and the feeling that you have for Ads around the club and the place, there's just near universal support without expectation of any return.
Isn't that all clubs though? Like, sure, is there any club
Well,
that wouldn't?
the real answer is it depends on how well you play.
Well, yeah,
and
all right.
how well you conduct yourself, which does matter, but it's probably sort of like 10% of the 100.
Yeah, right.
And it's not every club.
No.
Really?
No.
Come on, name names. Who's not going to? Who wouldn't?
No, you're not getting me with that.
Can I ask
Which fan base wouldn't love Adam Treloar? I cannot fathom
I will
that.
name one club in terms of like this question. Not that this is necessarily a St Kilda question, but obviously this year St Kilda have sort of kiboshed the free agency market in a way, right? In a way they've gone out and they've spent a lot of money, not only internally but on new players. Is that something that you expect to happen? And I'm not necessarily focusing on them, but is that something you expect to happen almost every year from here on out? That there'll be one team that's sort of cashed up based on who they've had on their list for the last little while and the age demographic and so on, and it's just something that you have to contend with? Or is that something where you go, we need a line up for when it's our turn to go and try and snag a couple of star players? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's actually a pretty good segue into some of the specifics of this trade period. So, we've been linked to a lot of players, but the message for our people is that we're actually strategic and targeted in what we're doing. And we're not ones, you don't play media whack-a-mole in terms of denying everything that gets thrown up. Because
then they'll just literally make someone else up.
So we are getting Matt Rowell.
Great. So literally, like, I wouldn't be able to do my actual job if all I did was bug Elliot and the media team around, hey,
that's not true.
They're saying this. But we have been really strategic and targeted. So we've only really got into meaningful conversations on a handful of players this year. And they have to be players that improve you.
Yeah.
There's no point bringing in players or people into a new environment if they're not going to improve you and they're not going to get opportunities.
Yeah.
So, we have let's address the elephant in the room, the backs and Cal Wilkie. We have a group of players, and one of the things that I point out here is Jed Bustling has never done a pre-season.
Yep.
He's been
Has he not?
No, he's been interrupted every pre-season he's been at the footy club. So there's still great upside and warmth for Jed. And that's where you've got to benchmark anyone you're bringing in. Are they going to be better than what we have? And if they're not, you're better off going to the draft and keeping your list turning over and balancing up that now and future. So,
and we also, sorry to interrupt, but we also have to offset that across the fact that we got a lot of money tied up in, some top end talent. We got some amazing top end talent here. So it's not like we can just magically make up numbers in the salary cap and go and buy 6 backmen at $1 million each, right? That's just not a feasible option.
But circling back to what you said before, some of the money for some of the players to move, there's a stay price and a go price.
Yeah.
In terms of when you decide to use the go price and try and get someone out, you've got to be really strategic around that.
What do you reckon the gap is? Like, what's the percentage difference?
It's getting bigger.
Yeah. So like 30%?
So stay
40%.
price is to get.
Hey, mate, it was a lot more than 30% for me. I tell you that much.
Stay price is to keep the player who's currently here. Go price is to go and grab
someone out.
Tom Boyd from GWS.
Yeah.
Okay.
To be fair, I didn't really give them an opportunity to bid back, but anyway, it's not about me.
But it's interesting because your weapons to try and bring a player in used to be facility or money. Everyone's got money at the moment. So that's actually not a weapon because the cap went up
cap
a lot. And lots of clubs, lots of media people sort of speculate on, did clubs have, increases with the salary cap? Most players don't. didn't have full. So,
as in, so specifically, when people have contracts that are tied to a percentage of the cap, essentially, is what you're saying, right? Yep. So that, like, let's say someone's on $1 million, the cap goes up 10%, their contract automatically tracks with that.
Yeah, I had no idea.
There are deals that are like that out there. There are some coaching deals like that out there, from what I'm told, in terms of the soft cap.
Yep.
But not every player, what you're saying, it's a very small minority have got actually those deals in place.
Yeah, and some have, a percentage of the increase, or whatever.
As in a small minority Bulldogs players, or across the league?
Across the
okay, cool.
It's a pretty tough thing to negotiate, right? Because I'm sure sitting in your shoes, you're going, hang on a minute, we've now got an uplift that might make us able to go and get. I'm not going to give up that uplift and just automatically tie ourselves to the current talent.
Sounds like we should give Buslinger one of these contracts.
So, but what that means is that, because the cap went up a lot in one of the years, it wasn't a smooth increase with the new CBA.
Jumped big first year or second year or whatever it was.
Third year. Yeah. But what that meant is that every club's got a lot of money.
Yeah.
And what's the rules about how much they have to spend of the cap, just for the fans?
95.
Yeah. So and that's an
what
average.
What is the cap? What do you know the number off the top of your head?
It'd be weird if you
Not
didn't.
off the top of my head.
All right.
Not in specifics.
And what?
Roughly,
so what's the bottom cap?
16 or 17 million or something like that?
Around there.
Yeah.
And the bottom of that would be
95% of it.
Oh,
And that's an average number, right?
I went to a state school.
Or is that they have to hit the 95 every year, or they have to average 95 over a period
No,
of
you
time?
have to hit it.
Yeah.
You have to hit 95, but you can bank some of the money to use in future.
It feels like they change these rules every few months. Do you all you list managers or PASMs get called into a meeting with Andrew Dillon? He's going, all right, we've changed it now, and it's now averaged out by the star sign of the player and the height and the.
We have a couple of meetings through the year, but no, it actually doesn't change very much conceptually.
And usually with the CBA, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's kind of in the margins that changes.
Here's an interesting question. How well do you have visibility or some concept of visibility about where clubs are at with their own cap? Like, do you have an understanding? Because like in my head, I go, like, if I was sitting in your shoes, I'm thinking, great, well, next year, these three clubs, they can't be spending the cap based on what we know. So they're going to have a big splash to make into the market for free agents in the next 12 to 24 months.
You always know loosely enough. Yeah.
Who's right at the edge? Who's overspending like right now?
Other than Geelong.
You
can't say that. Yeah. I can.
You're not getting me on that one either.
No, I mean, just from vibe. Like, you look at... Surely Brisbane has got to be close to 9. They don't have any margin for error, surely.
No, you said before, do we have money? Like the management that's gone on at our club through Sam and the team
and the cap
prior to me
increase,
coming, I can't claim any of the successes yet.
No, do it,
next
mate.
year.
Do
next
it.
year.
None of this humble brilliance. Come on, this is your brilliance.
Most clubs are pretty well positioned these days because there's enough ways to move things around to give you flexibility to go. And that's where it's hard.
Yeah.
That's where it's hard to attract players. You used to be able to just come in and drop a whole heap of money. Now that
which is pretty much what happened to me, like in terms of timing, from what I understand. The club had sort of banked a bit, if you will, and they go, we need to land a key forward. We've never had one. Now we've got 6.
Yeah.
And so that's where basically the opportunity for uplift. And in many cases, and unless I'm mistaken, there was examples earlier on in the salary cap era where clubs kind of had to spend some money, right, to get them
still
up.
happens.
Yeah, and it still happens, where they're basically like, we got to give money to someone, otherwise what are the ramifications if you spend under 95%?
you just bring it up.
So it's not
change
like
some
you get
contracts to bring it up.
punished today or whatever. You just spread it out amongst the players that you've got, basically. Interesting. So backs is a focus, obviously in Sierra, the right type of backs. Where do you see one of those scary moments? I would say less so today than probably 12 months ago. With our list that I've mentioned a few times was our midfield and the age of our midfield. Now, we've had Ed Richards step up and Fraser step up, which makes me feel a whole lot better, to be honest. But there was a time then when it was basically seeming 80% of our midfield time was being spread across Bont, who's turning 30 in a month or two, Libba, who's 33, and Ads, who's 33, and both of whom have had some injury history. Where are you sort of seeing the projected out needs over the next 2, 3, 4 years, rather than just obviously solving maybe a bit of a hole in our backline at the moment?
Yeah, so the specifics around positions and role, I think there's attributes that underpin every role in AFL football, and that's certainly what we talk about as a list management group and a recruiting group.
So they're like door openers, if you will. Like, you have to have these things to be even considered as being part of the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and if you do have those things, I think one of the hardest things to do as a recruiter is to say, hey, we're bringing this guy in as this role.
Yeah.
2 years in, they'll have found their own way through our coaching, our development, etc., and they might change roles. Joel was brought in as a halfback wing, and he looks like for every intent and purpose, he's going to end up an inside hybrid mid, hard-running two-way mid. So, if you're bringing in players with the foundation of athleticism, ability to cover the ground, football IQ, competitiveness and physicality, you're in a spot where your list will evolve naturally from within. And then what you can do is, if you do see an emerging hole, that's when you can use your acquisitions to go out and either backfill depth, bring in players with upside who aren't getting opportunity, or to go out and try and bring in a top quality player. So I do agree that the midfield is an area that has been identified as needing some succession, but it's also, there's a fair bit still on the list now, whether that's Cooper Hines, who played a really solid VFL final series and in the grand final had some impactful moments.
Yeah, and looks like he needs a couple of pre-seasons to get some legs under him, as my external observation, to cover the ground a bit better than he is at the moment, would be my, just as a fan, if you will.
And even a Josh Dolan, who's shown a lot with his running patterns and his forward stuff this year, connection between the arcs. There's nothing to say he can't end up a mid as well with the attributes that he has.
Is it so? But one real difficulty of having, and this is in any position, right? One really big difficulty for people in your position, I imagine, who have these really superstar players, and let's not beat around the bush. I mean, in particular with those three boys in the middle of the ground, they're three of the top 20 mids in the comp, maybe even less, I don't know, depending on their year. That can stifle, obviously, opportunity surrounding that group. And it has over the last, at least from my perspective, at different times over the last 5 to 10 years. As opposed to when I first came into the club, Bevo's philosophy was, let's throw sort of 7, 8, 10 blokes through there and let's use our energy to sort of overwhelm teams. We've moved much more towards these are our starters and these are who's going to get the opportunity. How do you manage that component? Because development, in my eyes, in that position comes through exposure of actually playing it enough and getting those sort of drips and drabs of it around when, the Bonts and the Trelaws and the Libbers actually rotate off the ground is not exactly the development that many players need. How do you deal with those superstars really sort of, I suppose, having a stranglehold on positions when it comes to development and list management?
I look from my perspective in list management, and this is an important thing, there's always a need to know and play your role. Yeah. So that's something that's more probably better directed at the coaches. Yeah. But let's not forget they're doing a pretty good job of it. Because you said yourself, Ed and Joel.
Yeah, which sort of in like a fan sense came out of the blue almost,
Yeah,
like,
it didn't internally though. No. Because I've probed on what that looks like and how did that come about.
Yeah, how do we replicate it, right?
Getting to know people here. But yeah, I would have great comfort as a Bulldogs fan that our coaching group are well and truly on top of that, because there's a couple of prime examples that have happened. And the next cab off the rank's Riley Sanders. Yep. And the next cab off the rank is Cooper Hines. Yes. So there's a pretty strong succession here.
Is that just
already.
Midfield, or is there? Can you?
I'm just using midfield.
I think it's.
Can you tell us next cab off the rank for forward and back?
Absolutely,
please.
Well, that's where we go. So Jed Bustling is the obvious one, because, like I said, I really feel for Jed, and I feel for any tall player taken early in the draft at any club, because this happens.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like the Fraser conversation.
You're just playing into Boydie's insecurities.
Let me just say I feel for any current tall player taken high in the draft. But if you look at the expectations placed on drafted players are anchored on success. So, and it's often anchored on an outlier. So whether that's Harley Reid, whether that's Joel Fraser later in the draft, they're the ones everyone goes, oh, why didn't they pick him? Or, why can't they all be like that? The harsh reality for tall people taken high in the draft is it takes them 4 to 5 years, and that's with a clean run at it.
Yeah.
Jed hasn't had a clean run. So there's a lot of upside in Jed. Jordan Croft's similar. So there's your key forward.
Yeah, we saw the glimpses this year, didn't we?
Saw him on Friday night at Whitten Oval, and he was up and about after the VFL grand final win.
And if you talk on attributes, Jordan's got attributes to play key forward, wing, ruck, key back.
Is he wing as well?
He can run like the wind.
Can he?
Yeah. So, and that's what attribute-based recruiting does, is it gives you enough weapons in the toolkit to where, hey, we need to look at something here. And our coaches have a really curious, innovative mindset, and they will try it. and the other part I would say to your question around that, Tom, is never undervalue the value of the VFL and success.
Yeah,
of the
and
VFL.
doing it properly like we do.
Yeah, and the success, and that comes right down to coaching, the mindset, the philosophy, the standard of our VFL contracted players is really high as well, which allows us as a footy club to explore development in that situation and success at VFL level with a young group, which is what we had this year. You know, there was still your Liam Joneses and your Taylor Durays and sound like Gary Ayres there. You're a Rashudos, you McLeod, you big things. You Adam Trelaw.
Do you feel Dirty sound like a Crows player because you were at Port for so long?
No, it was just that Gary Ayres quote that still makes me laugh. We had that massive mix of talented youngsters who were meaningfully contributing to a finals games against hardened opposition at state league level, and the older blokes sort of showing them the way and putting them on their back in the high leverage moments when they needed to. So the development and the succession planning is something that naturally evolves when you're curious, innovative, and you have that structure around them, and that's where we're really lucky.
Well, I think we've probably covered most of the questions that we got through from the fans, but one that stands out is how do you determine contract length? Right? Contract value is one thing. I think that there's examples where you look at deals, and not just here but anywhere, right? And you go, why is that 4 and the other one's 3, or why is that 4 and 2, or who's determining that? Is that a management negotiation conversation? Where does that sort of stack up in the overall scheme of things, and how do you make decisions based on the tenure that these deals will create?
Well, it's like anything. We talked about that pendulum before. I think we're on a pendulum now where we're swinging towards the longer deals.
Yeah.
And, in an analytical vacuum, in a windowless room looking at spreadsheets, is that what you would do? Probably not. Mm-hmm. But the harsh reality is this is a market.
Yeah, it's a player's market at the moment.
And you've got to meet the market.
Yeah.
Otherwise you won't get anyone in. So is it uncomfortable? Yes. Does it have an advantage? Yes. We talked before about your cap.
Yeah.
Having players on long-term deals is what's allowing clubs at the moment to move their cap around and target a year or target a player. Without those long-term deals, that would be a lot harder. And we are starting to see players who are running into the negative of a long-term deal from their perspective. So I think like most things in footy...
That means basically that their value at the end of their deal is not what they expected it to be.
Well, they want to move. And it's hard.
Yeah.
There's a couple of high-profile ones around the comp now.
Yeah.
Who are finding it harder than they would if they only had 1 year left on a deal.
Yeah, and they're still in their prime. Obviously the Petrarca one that came out yesterday, and their negotiation capability now is shot because they won the negotiation 5 years ago and got a great deal, but now that's coming back to bite them. Yeah, interesting.
The interesting part with that too is you can expand it out into, the father-son Northern Academy NGA conversation. Are these things naturally going to correct themselves? Probably.
Yeah.
Likewise with the game, 5 years ago, everyone was panicking because the game was rubbish. And now high-scoring offense, ball movement's king, and everyone's loving watching footy again.
Yeah.
I think,
And all of that's kind of, like, from my perspective, it's all rubbish. Like, it's all captured by a small minority of teams who aren't performing that well. Because, frankly, I've seen some of the worst games of footy this year I've ever seen in my life, right? But that's because I'm watching, and I won't name the clubs, so I'm not trying to make everyone feel bad about it.
Richmond.
But there's some really poor footy out there at the moment. Yeah. The bottom end of the comp is probably, in my head, almost as bad as it's been in terms of the gap from the teams who obviously played last Saturday. And
I do think philosophically, though, clubs and teams are trying to play more attractively than they were 5, 6 years ago.
Maybe. But there's also coaches who have been around for 20 years in the comp who unlikely are going to be like philosophically, magically different. I can think of one in particular, So I agree with you saying, but my point was more, it's always more nuanced than, it was good and it was bad and now it's good, or it's good now it's bad, that sort of thing. Yeah.
I think we all yearn for what we grew up with, right? Like that's where we all anchor on.
No, I yearn for the Bulldogs winning.
Yeah. I'm still,
what I grew up
genuinely
with.
In my mind, I'm still stuck in between 05 and 10, which is like, obviously those magical Sydney West Coast games into the Dogs prelim time when it was like, the Dogs were kicking 130 points a game. That's sort of, I'm still trapped there as I'm getting old.
But I think sometimes the less intervention, the better, and things will work itself out. Like history's littered with that, whether you're looking at economics, politics, whatever.
Yeah.
Like
there's
history's just
unintended
littered with
consequences from these changes.
those. Yeah, and our job is to get ahead of the unintended consequences of any sort of rule or simulation or thing that the AFL are throwing at
So
us.
what is the? I mean, Ryan asked on there. I mean, he's asking with the father-son selections. We've got a few coming up, is the rule change going to hurt us? Is the rule change happening?
Well, thankfully, our position is that we obviously have had a fair bit of success with the
just
father-son
a damn
rule.
straight.
Just a little bit.
And we love the romance of it for footy.
Yeah.
But we also just need to see it play out. They made changes
I can't sit here and not say, like, if I put myself in someone else's shoes, that would be the worst answer I've ever heard in my life. You know what I mean? Because we have had not just a lot of them, like superstar talent come through at that level, and we've been so lucky. And
we've got more coming up.
By the way, I'm all for it because again, there is this football element that is so magical about the connection to the fathers who play. And I think it's one
Is
of the
your daughter doing Auskick yet?
next
by the
year.
way?
She can't yet.
Yeah, all right, sweet. Because in the father-daughter rule,
Yeah, it's only
Boydie's
one game.
eligible.
Yeah. But the connection, I never would get rid of it because of the connection. Having said that, it's not fair. And it's not sort of attributed fairly across the board, right?
Well, yeah, nothing's fair.
But it's not our fault that other players aren't, making the right sort of babies.
Well, yeah, like Das had Sam had kicking the footy when he was 1.
So he's a good father.
Yeah, no. I'm all for keeping it, but it is difficult. I must say, if you're a struggling club, and at the moment you're looking at your list and going, we've missed out on Sam Darcy because he was picked up as a father son. I can understand the frustration.
No, it's real, and you can't deny that, right? And at the club I was at previously, it was a very different feeling.
Yeah,
self-interest is undefeated.
Yeah.
So, but what I would say is
Aaron Phillips.
The AFL made some changes last year for this year, and we haven't seen them play out. So,
which were what those changes?
So they shortened up the value of picks. So picks are now, you're going to have to use some more significant capital to pay. Yep. So the days of using pick 35, 44 and 48 to bring in a player who's a top 10 player.
Like Mitch Wallace and
they're
Libba and those types of things.
What picks would you have to use now?
Well, chatting to a couple of clubs who have some high-end talent this year, they're actually thinking about using top 15 picks to match bids.
Yeah. Wow. So which ends up sort of, it's not quite equal, but yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But also there's an opportunity, and this is the other part. Yeah, you can complain and moan about it, and
watch me.
But
yeah, but we're going to do the opposite.
There's also an opportunity to go in and get at picks that you wouldn't be able to get at otherwise.
Yeah.
If Gold Coast have 5 kids this year, you can go out and try and get pick 6. They're going to be more. They're going to have more of an appetite to allow you into that zone of the draft if you get aggressive about it. So you've got to take risk on either way. The days of just being able to sit with the hand that you dealt and rebuild, they're over. And if you're trying to do that, you're in big trouble. So,
and how far forward are you planning this? Like I asked the president in this room, are we sending Tim English and his gorgeous fiance just a dozen oysters and a Marvin Gaye CD just to hopefully bolster our father-son, father-daughter stocks?
No, we don't plan to that level, Danny.
Okay,
but we are watching. From under 15 V-Line Cup on, we've just added a new staff member to our NGA to head that up. We are putting more money into our NGA father-son, father-daughter,
NGA?
mother-son, mother-daughter.
Oh, wow.
I think that'll be coming pretty soon. So
and NGA
we've got to shorten that up, parent-child.
Yeah.
Can we just go with that?
Yeah.
I think so. No, Next Gen Academy. All right.
NGA is Next Gen Academy, so multicultural, Indigenous backgrounds.
Maybe checking out Auskick around the Albert Park area just for...
she's going to be tall, that's for sure.
There you go. So, it's halfway there.
What about when you're projecting out the list? How far are you projecting your decisions? So obviously not 20 years into the future, but this is a role that requires future thinking. Is there sort of a 2-year horizon, 4-year horizon? How does that work?
Like I said before, we've got to be the long-term voice in the short-term world. So
and what's that look like time-wise?
Everyone in this building is looking at next year. We're looking 2, 3, 5 years ahead. And that is one thing where data can really help us. So, yeah, we'll have a gut feel on how a player's tracking and what their projection looks like. But can we also use data to help us have an understanding of, we feel that, but based on history of players who've performed at this level and on this trajectory, they're likely to play at this level for this long.
Yep.
Things like that.
And what picks will we get after we win our 6th premiership in a row?
Who cares? We've won 6 flags.
All right, well, we should wrap it up. I do want to specifically ask the questions the Patreons have sent in, even though they have been. So if you feel you've done this, please answer
Quick fire answers.
Quick fire answers. How involved are Bebo and the coaching staff in list management decisions?
We are really collaborative, and that's been great. Picking on their expertise, as I said before, the data hasn't caught the coaches. Coaches haven't caught recruiters on some areas of it, especially around, projecting, but we also haven't caught the coaches on their knowledge of football at all. So really collaborative, really respectful. There's some healthy debate at times, but we always make sure we find a way to get back to the centre for the next one.
Fair enough. What's the balance between winning games now and preparing for the list for the future? What are we leaning towards, more winning now or future?
There's enough mechanisms in the AFL now. You can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Oh, win all the time. I love that. Is there a concern that we will be stuck in the 6th to 12th place where we have been stuck for since 2021?
Oh yeah, always.
Yeah, right.
You can't deny that.
How do we fix it?
But you got to get creative, innovative, and at the right time and in the right way, brave.
Yeah.
To do it.
And that's what the 200 people working here are all trying to do, or 400 people, or whatever it is. Right?
Yeah.
All got the same goal.
Everyone here, I've said the word curious. Everyone here is really curious. I've said innovative a bit. We're exploring everything we can.
It's very Ted Lasso.
Better. Yeah, believe.
Yeah, believe, but be curious, not judgmental. So we're not planning an hugely active trade, more a targeted trade period, is what you've said.
I think every trade period of ours will be considered and targeted.
So we're more like snipers rather than.
Let's try and sign every free agent.
Yeah, all right. So what was that?
Let's try and sign every free agent, which is not feasible anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. Yep, we've got all those. That's just a cruel question. What? No, I'm not even going to answer that.
Yeah, there's a couple in there that I've filtered out.
Hey, yeah, good. Patreons, we love you. Thanks for supporting us. But when you got overly negative questions, okay, let's just put that bottom one. You happy with that?
Yeah.
All right. This is from Matthew. Are we getting Butters?
Look, Zach's contracted to Port. He's a really obviously valuable player. He's someone we've loved since his draft year at the Bulldogs. I obviously loved him at Port. I was there when we picked him.
It's a match made in heaven.
But he's contracted to Port. We're respectful of that.
Good answer. He has been I feel like he's been, Matty Rowell and him have been rumoured for 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years. I'm like, when are the fans have been asking about Matty Rowell for 10 years. I'm like, do you reckon he's maybe got used to the sun up there and he's probably going to stay?
Which is pretty good for a Red.
He also won a Brownlow.
Yeah. Okay, will we, if we don't get our very targeted, specific sniper trade list, and we don't get it, do you just move one over, or have you just go to a different target that you've already got? How you obviously have to adapt, and how many contingency plans do you have?
That is something where data can help you get a first look at something really quickly, so you can make a considered decision, because you get a lot of names thrown at you, right? And what you want to be able to do is you don't want to waste anyone's time in this industry. And you don't want to give anyone false hope in terms of whether they're coming to your club or not. Especially
our listeners.
Yeah, well, but
got to say, I'm getting a lot of hope just from this chat. Please make it not false hope.
But what it means is that when a name gets thrown at you, you can pretty quickly, because we've got really good processes and really good people in the building, we can really quickly get a look and see if they help. Because like I said before, we've got to improve. There's no point bringing in another warm body who doesn't actually improve us. So we have a pretty high threshold in terms of, hey, is this player at this cost going to improve our list and not compromise our future? And if they tick that box, we're really agile and we have good processes and good detail behind us to be able to act on that really quickly.
Do you manage the current list? Do you know how much across it, or are you always looking to the future?
It's actually been so traditionally a list manager does both.
Yeah.
Coming over with Sam having done the role, we discussed whether, is footy sort of doing everything the same and what's a different way to look at it. A different way to look at it is, and this is a little bit borrowed from American sport, where there's sort of someone who looks after the current list and someone who looks after everyone else who comes in. So we went with that way. So Sam primarily looks after the current contracts and retention. Then he gives me a budget to go out and...
Yeah, right. Interesting.
So can you tell us, how's Cody?
Cody's going well. No,
he's met Ray Allen yesterday.
Yeah, he looked really happy with Ray Allen on the MC.
Basketballer?
Yeah, right.
Best, second best 3-point shooter of all time now after Steph beat him.
And Andrew Gase. But do you reckon, will he play round one?
I couldn't tell you round 1, round 2, round 3, but he's
But he'll
happy
play next
going
year.
Well.
Hopefully.
Again, it's
Ask
just
the
not
physios,
my,
mate.
yeah,
damn it.
Just not my.
Didn't you listen to him?
area.
He doesn't even know who Cody is. He's looking to the future.
He's looking at Cody's kids.
So no, but look, seen him in the gym. He's progressing as you would expect.
Not walking with a limp or anything?
No.
Oh, sweet.
He was rocking a cool cane for a little while there, which I think he might keep that now.
I think he'd probably keep that, knowing him. He's a Northside boy. Well, we should wrap up.
We should wrap up. I did have one more question of, we do seem to really focus on players who will build a cohesive change room. Like, how much of the no dickheads policy do you have to do a background check on when looking at players? Because Bevo does seem to focus on nicer players, and we've lost nice players, but there is a certain player who doesn't play for us anymore. That I think a lot of us are kind of like, we're okay with that. How do you do background? Do you do background checks on, and how do you do that?
Yeah, it's massive.
Isn't that the ears bit? Is that the ears bit you mentioned before? Talking to people who know them?
Eyes, ears and data. So the eyes is fairly self-explanatory. That's going to games, watching vision. We spend a lot of time on vision and codifying that vision, turning it into data. So the vision we use to pick at when we watch footy and the recruiter says, he kicks it well, we've got a series of things when they watch a kick that they
look for
automatically click, and that turns it into data for us as well. So we're trying to unpick the subconscious without the recruiter knowing it.
Translate the subjective into the objective.
Yeah.
And you can't do that with personality.
Well, the thing with personality is...
You can.
Well, not with data, I mean.
Oh, yeah. Anyway.
No, you can't. But you can put a process around it and you can be really diligent with it. And that's something the foundation Dom and Sam had built, and Jamie, who's been here for a long time, had built on that. We get really good information on players. We have really positive and respectful relationships with everyone in the talent system, and you just need to lean on that. If you meet the player multiple times, if you talk to as many people as you can, if you're really diligent and thorough with it, you'll find a pattern in people.
Do you have it? So it's like a bunch of first dates that when you meet these people to
you
kind of
also
get
meet
to
the
know
parents.
them. You meet the parents. Do you have a set question that you ask that sort of the players wouldn't even realise that you're testing their personality? Like, what's your favourite movie or...
Well, I can't say that here.
Yeah,
all right. But do you have one?
No, there's a few things you do.
Okay.
So again, I used to be a teacher, so
of
I
course.
kind of lean on that a little bit.
What's 4 plus 4?
Irrelevant. So what you want to do is, you just want to get to know the people and the people around them as completely as you can. And that's not just one interview. It's not just one phone call. It's not calling the person they tell you to call. It's calling the people around them.
Yeah. Simon Dalrymple once told me that when he was doing this on Bont, he was like, this family's really good at covering up secrets. Because there's no way this kid is so nice.
He's too
and
perfect.
Good. Yeah.
Where's the skeleton?
He was genuinely worried, and then it turned out, he is actually perfect.
Remember John Eales' nickname?
Nobody.
Yeah, because nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
So maybe we should use that with Bont. But no, it's just about being thorough, complete, and being prepared to go a little bit deeper to get there. We look at social media. We look at all of that stuff. So if you've liked a Facebook page when you're 12 that you probably shouldn't have, we will find it and ask you about it.
Yeah. Do you have hackers?
No, I don't need hackers. Well, the smart ones put it on private. But,
and that tells you something as the time.
Well, it means that they're savvy. Probably half the battle,
we
right?
like that.
But no, the impact on the locker room is something we really, really, really factor in and value, because no amount of talent's going to cover up if you're going to cause problems.
We're building a club. Building a club and a team. And
that'd be the main message to our supporters is, there's all this fancy stuff, but this is still a footy club, and we know it's still a footy club. And if you come in here on any training day and the community's in the cafe, that's something really different and unique that the Western Bulldogs and Footscray has that not a lot of clubs have, and it matters.
That's where I saw Bevo on Monday. He was just walking through saying
he
good day
rolls
to
through. He
everyone.
knows everyone's name. I'm still upskilling on that, but it's a genuine footy club, and it's more like your footy club than you think it is.
Yeah.
The facilities are great and they're fancy, and we get to play in front of 50,000 at Marvel, which is fantastic. Highest supported Marvel team this year, by the way.
Yes. Take that, Bombers.
But as part of that,
beating St Kilda and North isn't that much of a win.
and Carlton. Beat
Oh,
Carlton.
yeah, of course.
High crowds than them at Marvel.
No, that's
All right, that's pretty good.
Yeah. But we care about our footy club as well, and we care about who we bring in.
Awesome,
well, mate. The fact that they've brought you in means they did the due diligence on you, and you're clearly not a dickhead.
Yeah.
Officially, in the eyes of the Footscray Football Club.
Say.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But man, thank you so much for coming on the show, but also for helping build this premiership dynasty, which starts next year after.
Next year. Yeah, always next year.
Gave my childhood to that roar of the red, white and blue sea, and the knowledge that you had two loves, the Bulldog boys and me. 20 years on, I feel that longing hanging in September air. But the reason I go every week is to pretend you're still there. And they will find the glory one day, and I will throw it at your feet. It's a long, long road they're running for you, the dogs of Footscray streets. Long, long road they're running for you, the dogs of Footscray streets.